everyone. This is the Janice Thompson Show, and I am the producer-host, Janice Thompson. And I'm so excited about our show today. We've already been having fun behind the scenes here. It's called Our Polish Heritage, A Tree That Blossoms. And as you can tell from our opening number with our wonderful musician, Dan Dobek, that this may have something to do with Poland, and it actually does. Later on, we'll be playing the Polish national anthem, and it'll be sung in Polish with the English translation. I want to welcome our six panelists today. Is that correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 8. We have 7 panelists. Please edit that. And myself makes 8.
No, 6 and 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the panel discussion that we're having today includes Polish culture, churches, language, memorabilia, and I want to introduce to my left first Phyllis Budkowicz, who has been working on a project for a while now, and I called her up and I asked her how it was going, and this is why we're all here today. So Phyllis, I applaud you on what you're working on, and let's meet the other panelists as well.
Veronica Pogorzelski Thompson.
Helen Ann Saunders.
Carolyn Repka Kozabal.
Phyllis Zichbutka.
Bernice Izo. Patricia Slajeski Bajika.
Joyce Siski Addison.
The name of the project that Phyllis has been working on is called Discovering Schenectady County's Eastern European Roots. And before Phyllis gives you some background on her inspiration, I just want to let you know that I'm so excited about getting this out to the public, and Phyllis has a lot of information that she'd like to share on how this all got started and where it's going.
Okay, thanks, Janice. Thank you so much for gathering us and inviting us to do this program. All 4 of my grandparents came to Schenectady at the beginning of the 20th century from somewhere in Poland. And since I knew 3 of them growing up, I thought I knew my heritage, but I was wrong. In the summer of 2008, I taught English in Krakow for the Kosciuszko Foundation. And one day, a very nice gentleman invited me to go to Nowy Targ, which was about 40 miles away from Krakow, to where I thought my grandparents might have come from, my father's parents. And so we spent 3 hours walking through the cemetery there. And I saw my maiden name on tombstones. I saw my grandmother's maiden name on tombstones. Her maiden name was Różański. My maiden name was Zich. And as we drove out of town, I saw on a building Zich off-road vehicles. But one thing that intrigued me in the cemetery was I saw a lot of other familiar names. Surnames that were familiar to me growing up in Schenectady in the Mount Pleasant section in St. Adalbert's Parish. So that really intrigued me. When I got home, I went to the Schenectady County Historical Society to continue my search. This was fairly new for me because I didn't know anything much about my Zich grandmother. My grandfather had died before I was born. And so from the Historical Society, I was able to get my grandmother's application for naturalization, and on that I saw that both she and my grandfather had been born in Nowy Targ, Poland. So in 2010 and 11, I returned to Nowy Targ with a Polish friend. She was my mouthpiece, frankly. I understand some Polish, but at the level of a 3-year-old. And we went looking for family, alive or dead. Now fast forward, and by now I have my ancestors back to about 1800. I'm totally thrilled. I never thought I'd get that far. But I'm now waiting anxiously for in my email to arrive a message from a second cousin that I know is alive and living in Nowy Targ. The connection between Nowy Targ and Schenectady fascinated me, and I began to comb the ship's manifests from the online ellisisland.com. As of now, I've found at least 50 individuals who came directly to Schenectady from Novi Targ, Poland, before World War II. Wow, most people locally are unaware that they have all these cousins in Novi Targ, and frankly, I must be related to most of the people in Novi Targ today. I've long been aware of the invisibility of our Polish heritage in the archives of Historical Society. It's a good place to start one's research, but the information there is very thin. There were more than 4,000 Polish immigrants in Schenectady during the 1920s, and reportedly 12,000 people of Polish heritage in Schenectady in the mid-1940s. I knew that my friend Bernice Izo had done her genealogy. It's Bernice over here. And I discussed my thoughts with her. Together we formed the project to discover Schenectady County's Eastern European roots, which kicked off last year on November 9th with a meeting at the Historical Society. We shared tips, information, and discussed how to go forward. And since then, we've published 4 newsletters, all online, all electronic. People have written short stories about their families. We have helped each other translate various languages, because there's not only Polish that's involved here, there's some Russian and some others. And we've helped each other. We have now a good-sized distribution list, and our ranks of authors is growing, and we're capturing our heritage. Anyone who'd like to receive our newsletter and contribute pictures, stories, and other information gathering can contact me at my email, abudka@nycap.rr.com, or phone area code 518-377-8734. Now Bernice will tell you about her experiences.
Thank you, Phyllis. I know many of you would like to start to research your family history or have done some things. The first thing I would suggest is that you go into the Schenectady County Public Library site online and go to the thing called research. In there is a section called genealogy. They have listings of what is listed at the Schenectady Historical Society. One of the listings being a list of the naturalization papers that they have on microfiche. The other thing is a listing of the folders they have of newspaper clippings. If you find those there, take a trip to the Historical Society. They will let you see the copies. And while you're in the area, go stop at the public library. The Historical Society is on 34 Washington Avenue. The Central Library is 5 blocks away. It's a one-day thing. While you're at the Central Library, you can look at microfiche if you have wedding dates or obituaries you'd like to look up. They have a couple of copies of Ancestry online that you can use to look up other things like ship listings, census, and Social Security death dates, which will lead you to the obituaries if that's what you need to do. And then if you want more information, there's a couple of other on-site lines that are on-site places that I think you should go. Fulton History Newspaper Project is a great one for all. It has microfiche copies of all the local newspapers. I went in the other day and found a whole bunch of stuff on my Polish relatives that I did not know. Little things like legal things that is interesting. I mean, I probably don't need to know family history, but I know what they were up to. And then,
That you maybe didn't want to know.
well, that may be true. And then the other site is FEEFHS, the Foundation of the Eastern European Family History Society. This has links to all the Eastern European countries, and the best thing about this is I use this to connect with the POSM project, which is where my relatives are from. I found marriage certificates. By finding the marriage certificates, I found my great-grandfather's parents' names, so I can go further now and in my research, and that was just a wonderful experience. Now, there's our other sites you're going to run into when you're doing this online. You're going to run into things like WebRoots, WebGem, Family History. Many of these, before you go very far, they're going to ask you for money. This is because basically they're going to take you into Ancestry. This is a piece of advice from me. You can get Ancestry free for 2 weeks. You can do a whole lot in 2 weeks. Take it for free. If you really want more time than that, take the shortest amount of time you can take, which is, I think, a month. It's not terribly expensive for a month, because after a while you're going to run out of things you can look for, and there's no sense of paying for it for a year when you're not going to use it. I wish you all luck in finding your family. It's been a wonderful experience for me, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
Really valuable information.
Yes, it is
that
really
you have,
valuable.
Bernice.
Thank you.
And you
Really
don't even
valuable.
speak any Polish.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I'm the one real non-Polak in this crowd.
But you have a Polish name.
No, my mother's half Polish, and she grew up on Eastern Avenue Hill.
Do you understand Polish?
No, not at all. I don't,
Oh, wow.
These people, they talk to me. I'm just not. And ask Phyllis, I have
Okay.
lousy pronunciation.
Wow, that's nice. Phyllis, we have a map behind you.
Yes.
Are you able to point to the area in Poland that you were talking about?
Nowy Targ?
Yes.
Yes, it's in southern Poland, somewhere around here, right at the Slovak border. And my other grandparents came from what used to be Poland, but today is way up there in Lithuania. But they were Poles, so it's a big spread.
Nice. And so we're going to talk about where they settled here in Schenectady.
They all came to Schenectady.
For sure, because your study is on Schenectady County.
Absolutely.
Did you want to start talking about that piece where they settled here in Schenectady, and because the churches grew up around them, basically.
Right.
So I think that would be a good thing to
Okay.
bring out.
We have a picture of my great-grandparents. My mother's grandparents came with their older teenage children to Schenectady around 1911. And those grandparents were from what is today the Vilnius, Lithuania area. And my great-grandparents had a small farm near Mohawk Mall. And my grandparents went to night school. They studied English right away. And they were married in St. Mary's Church in 1916. They met there. And then I grew up in Mount Pleasant at St. Adalbert's Church. My father's parents came right around the turn of the century, and they were married in St. Adalbert's in 1903, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Such a beautiful church.
yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful
Gorgeous.
church. And you recently had a festival there.
The Fall Festival, and that's where
Where
we
I
met.
got to meet Pat, who now is a member of our board at SAC, and I want to take this time to mention that if you're viewing this right now, you're watching Channel 16, or you're watching it on the internet at sac.tv, and we're also viewed in 18 counties. So I just wanted to get that message out. 24/7 on the internet, so someone can see this worldwide. So maybe someone in Poland would like to
Oh,
watch
I'm
this
definitely going to
show.
send the link to my cousins,
It's
yes.
so wonderful with the internet. So that's sac.tv.
I am thrilled and delighted and honored to be able to talk about St. Mary's, the parish I grew up in. There's been evidence that Poles have been in the Mohawk Valley since 1863. And of course they grew in numbers, and they worshipped at St. Joseph's Church, which is at the foot of State Street, by what's now known as Veterans Park. But that was founded by Germans, German-speaking church. And so the Poles at that time petitioned the bishop to send them a Polish priest, which indeed he did. Father Dereszewski, Joseph Dereszewski, he sent on New Year's Eve of 1891. And a group of very enthusiastic Poles, according to the paper, met him at the train station and accompanied him to St. Joseph's Parish to recite for the evening. The very next day, at that church, St. Joseph's, the first Polish Mass in Polish language and sermon were held. In the afternoon, a group of about 83 persons, I believe mostly gentlemen at the time, met and decided that very afternoon, New Year's Day, 1892, that they would like to have built a Polish church. And within a short time, they had raised sufficient money to purchase a plot of land, first on Emmett Street, but later purchased one on Eastern Avenue Hill, which was at that time known as Liberty Street. So the very first church was built within 18 months and dedicated on the 4th of July of 1893. There were about 800 parishioners already by then. Father Dadashevsky, whose picture is here, and here also is that very first church that was built, and it was of red brick, was very well admired and honored, and by the year 1903, the parish had already grown in size to 1,500 people. So it was decided to build another church, a larger church. And here is the picture of that. And the cornerstone says, indeed, 1903, and there's, I guess, an artist's drawing. Excuse me. This is the artist's conception of what that church should look like from the early book. And there's Father Dadashevsky again. And here we have an actual, apparent first, very early picture of what the church looked like. So that was dedicated in short order, and the parish grew still, by 1907, there was an interest in educating the children in the Polish language and culture and other subjects. So in that very first church in 1893, classes were set up in the basement, and the pastor and the organist and certain lay people taught classes there. With the establishment of the new church in 1903, Father Dadashevsky petitioned the bishop for some nuns, and the Sisters of the Resurrection answered admirably, sending 6 of their nuns to teach at St. Mary's. Within a few years, by 1913, I believe, the brand new school was built on Irving Street. By the way, the original church was facing Irving Street, the side street. The new church, that one built in 1903, faced Eastern Avenue. And you can find it quite easily if you come up from downtown, up what is known as Liberty Street, and come to a point where there's a traffic light called Knott Terrace. If you look at your left, you will see a red brick, very large, imposing red brick structure. That is St. John the Evangelist Church. If you continue on up Eastern Avenue, at the top of the hill, you'll see St. Mary's still there, of course. And it's right very close to the road, and it is of gray stone and has a 212-foot central Gothic spire. Here's a group of early gentlemen belonging to a society, and they are pictured at the school, in front of the school building. That school was established in 1913. It was part of Father Darashevsky's plan that that school be built, but he unfortunately died in 1911 at the age of 54.
Rather young age, huh?
Indeed, yes.
Yes.
The newspaper reported that there were throngs of people lining the entire Eastern Avenue from the point where the church begins all the way up to McClellan Street, which is where the cemetery was and is. That cemetery, of course, would have been at the outskirts of the city at that point, but they were very, very deeply thronged all along that route. And they also, the newspaper also reports that the day was given off to, the morning was given off to the Polish immigrants so that they could attend that funeral. And here's just a little old-timey postcard showing the church again, along with the school. And I think you can get this sometimes on the internet. If you look, you can find some of these are available, or you'll find an old copy that perhaps you can photocopy, photoprint.
Now, when did the church close?
That would have been on June 30th of 2009.
Oh, okay.
We're very grateful that the building is still standing and that somebody has purchased it. Some very, very dedicated people have purchased it and will establish it so that it will be somewhat open to the public.
I think it's being worked on as an art museum.
Yes?
Yes.
There several possibilities have been named, yes.
Mhm.
So we're very grateful for that. As I say, very dedicated people.
Very nice.
We had a pastor in the interim after Father Danishevsky, an associate pastor, and picture. And he volunteered by 1918 to join the Polish Army as a chaplain. So it was 1921 that the next pastor was named, and that was Father Wren. Here he's pictured in his robes as a Monsignor, but this will be a familiar face to many people of my own generation. Here is a picture of the children, some children of the parish in front of the church, class of 1916.
Wow.
About 1946 or so, along came Father, as Father Wren's, Monsignor Wren's health was declining. Father Michael Zakins was appointed an associate pastor, and this was to be his only assignment throughout his entire life. And there he is, latter years, inside the church. And he too, as well as Father Zakins, Father Wren, very, very dedicated person, and much was accomplished, including the complete renovation of the church. This, I think, is a prize. This is a picture of the interior of St. Mary's Church, circa 1953. It, of course, has been somewhat revised, remodeled since then, as I mentioned earlier. But there are certain things to note that old-timers in particular will recall. For example, the pulpit. Pulpit on the side of a church was used for the priest or celebrant of the service to mount so that he could be heard in the back of the church. Little curlicue steps, and there he would be. That is now gone in the remodeling. There's an altar rail. Unfortunately, the altar rail collapsed during the renovation when a workman leaned against it. You can also determine the time by the fact that there are ladies with hats. After the perhaps mid-1960s, it was no longer required that ladies wear hats in church. And the lovely veils of the First Communion girls. And you see the tile floor. I love this in particular. There were many statues, several statues in the church, but this was an additional layer which we later lost. That is, these end pieces were capped. The statues, you will note, are shrouded, telling us that this is Lent, because that was a practice at that time during Lent, that the statues should be shrouded in purple. And it's probably Holy Thursday, judging by the way that the front altar is adorned. There is an angel in blue somewhere here, and an angel in pink. Let's see if I can find those. Can't. So that is a source of great joy to have this picture and to have it been taken back then. Must have required quite astute photographer.
It's very beautiful.
I would be remiss if I did not mention the fact that there were, of course, many, many people who served us over the years, priests and deacons. Most recently, Father Richard Carlino, just before him, Father Provost. But along with our priests and deacons and the wonderful sisters of the Resurrection, and Eucharistic ministers and lectors, and the altar boys, we had a marvelous choir, a most marvelous choir. This is a gentleman, Joseph Antos, who was our organist and choir director for 62 years.
Oh my goodness.
And an organ was finally dedicated in his name, in his honor. Beautiful. They were so well instructed that they would go to, there were performances held, competitions held all around the country, and they would go and win many awards. And even to the last years of St. Mary's operation, the music was absolutely stunning. They were all very, very devoted and dedicated. More recently, Mrs. Anne-Marie Boudreau was our organist. St. Mary's is unique in having two central panels. One of them being a copy of the icon called Our Lady of Częstochowa. Indeed, St. Mary's was actually named the Mother of God of Częstochowa. Częstochowa being a city in Poland. This is a much revered painting that, according to tradition, was painted by St. Luke. During one of the wars in the Middle Ages, it was hidden under a table. And when a would-be conqueror came through to that person's house, or the place where the table was, he withdrew his sword and slashed at the table in anger, not knowing, of course, that the painting was below it. When the would-be conqueror had left, it was revealed that this icon had scars on the side of its cheek, the Blessed Mother's cheek, Mary's cheek, and this, of course, the baby Jesus that she's holding. Scars, and the scars had drawn blood. So she's looked upon by Poles as the Queen of Poland and Protectress of Poland. She is in this picture covered by various jewels, diamonds and rubies and other precious jewels in Poland, in thanksgiving for the many favors that were received through her intercession, that is, through her prayers to God for blessings. And this is a view in our closing year from the balcony. And you see it is Gothic in style, many spires. And this is that picture, again, a little closer up, similar to the original that the artist had painted. This is at the time of what is called 40 hours devotion. What you see in this gold item, which is called a monstrance, is what people know as communion, which Catholics believe is truly the body and blood of Christ, on display there for devotion by the people. On the side is a statue of Our Lady of Częstochowa, done very beautifully, and you see there the scars on the cheek too. We are unique in that, I think rather unique, in that we have not only this central picture on our altar, but that icon can be dropped, lowered by pulleys, and behind that icon is this lovely grouping of the Holy Family, Jesus and Mary and Joseph. And Poles love to decorate things, make them very ornate, and lilies are tucked in that spot. Other flowers at Christmas and lights, really a gorgeous sight. You see here some woodwork, and that was done, some woodworking. The altar, incidentally, is of white marble. Woodworking is done by a Mr. Fittler, I believe it was, who was hired from Zakopane, Poland, a woodworking region. This would be one of the side altars, very elaborately decorated, probably for Holy Thursday. It is our proud boast that on Holy Thursday, people would save St. Mary's. They'd do visitations, go from church to church to see the decorated altars, and they would make St. Mary's their last stop because they told us it was the most beautiful. One of the stained glass windows, which unfortunately did not reproduce well on computer, no idea from here of the gorgeousness of those stained glass, and a certain picture of the altar, and this taken from the altar, looking back, so that you get a better idea of the Gothic architecture, the Gothic arches, and the church from the outside, the exterior. Excuse me. This was just before closing in 2009. And just a few more views of both the interior and the exterior. And as Janice noted, we did close as a parish on June well, the final on June 30th. The final Mass was on Sunday, June 28th of 2009. But we are so glad that, as I said earlier, these other people have purchased the church, and we look forward to being able to enter it again. Stained glass windows being still there, and I'm sure many lovely events will take care over the years. And who knows, she has a bright future under the guidance of these people.
Thank you very much, Helen. You worked very hard on that presentation, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice.
Mine is a little bit shorter because our church is still functioning and still going strong. But crested on a hill stands the Church of St. Adelbert, its magnificent steeple spiraling heavenward, a reminder of the shrine of Our Lady of Częstochowa, the spiritual and cultural focal point of Poland. In 1900, it was decided by Bishop Burke that a second Polish church and the sixth Roman Catholic church in the area should be built because of the spiritual needs of the Polish population in the fast-growing Mount Pleasant area of Schenectady, as well as the older Weaver Street neighborhood of the Fifth Ward. At the bishop's suggestion, the name St. Adelbert was chosen for this church. And it's really amazing that on December 1, 1902, a deposit of $25 was paid to the Veeder estate for 7 lots located on Crane and Lansing Streets to construct the church. In the spring of 1903, the site was cleared and the foundation of the new wooden church was established. Within 7 months, 3 frame structures were built, a church, a school, and a rectory. Unfortunately, though, on October 9, 1909, the wooden church was destroyed by fire. But through the efforts of the congregation, which had grown from 200 families to 500, an imposing brick church, 1,600 seats inside, was erected 2 years later. Within the year of the new church, construction began on a new school, which was completed in 1914. The inside of the church, and I don't know if the camera will take it up, but the inside of the church looked like this originally. It was blue sky with stars, and inside of all around the upper part of the ceiling was all of the saints, pictures of the saints. In 1975, or let me see, yes, 1976, the church was renovated to what it looks like today, which is it's all beige and with gold gilt all around it. And the other day I was there for devotion of the Eucharist, and I was looking at everything. And it's amazing. After being a parishioner there for almost 70 years, I noticed that the brown wooden altar has candles in it. They're small, they're skinny, they're fat, but it's all around the altar. And if you're going into the church, take time to go up really close and personal and look at it, because it's absolutely phenomenal. There were things that I noticed in the church that after going to church and you're saying your prayers and you're singing your songs, there were so many things that I noticed that were totally amazing to me. And one of the things is all of the windows going around the church is the birth and the death and the resurrection of Christ. They're absolutely beautiful. So that's part of the interior of the church. The parish was presented with 3 bells in 1911 by the businessmen of the church and several of the church's societies. These bells were cast in Troy, New York, and they were named. Zygmunt weighs 2,030 pounds. Władysław weighs in at 1,401 pounds. And Stanislav weighs 536 pounds. They hang in the majestic steeple and that rise 190 feet above the ground, and they are the bells that we still hear today. A fourth and a smaller bell, and I just felt so sorry for this one. He weighs in at 100 pounds. He was salvaged from the original church. It's also housed in the steeple, but he has no name. So we need to figure out a name for that one. The church interior is enhanced by a high altar, as I showed you, with 2 side shrines made of oak with gold leaf trimming, constructed by the Tiffin Company of Ohio. In the center of the sanctuary is the imposing figure of Saint Adelbert, painted by the famous artist Stakowica of Kraków, and it dates back to 1912. Adorning the high altar are 2 angels of Italian ported Carrara marble. Also of Carrara marble are the statues of the Blessed Mother and the Sacred Heart that adorn the side altars. The pipe organ was blessed and dedicated by Pastor Stanislav help me out, Joyce. Mielewski on Sunday, May 19th, 1918. It was built by Mr. Radishevich from New Jersey and was believed to be one of the finest pipe organs in Schenectady at that time. Unfortunately, time and damage took its toll. Our imposing, beautiful organ that we use today was dedicated on Sunday, April 25th, 1976. The first polka mass was celebrated at St. Adelbert's on November 27, 1974 at 10 a.m. with special music provided by the Don Nikolsky Orchestra. Miniature babki were distributed to the parishioners at the close of Mass to be shared with families at their Thanksgiving dinners, and we continue that tradition today. So come on down to our good polka Mass on Thanksgiving morning and share with us with our babki. As members of the Church of St. Adelbert, we strive to be a loving, vibrant Roman Catholic community dedicated to being church for one another and supportive, helpful, and caring to all. As we nurture our Polish Catholic heritage and our Polish heritage among us today, we endeavor to be a community that welcomes everyone. We have continued with our Polish traditions, and Joyce will be talking about some of them, by selling a płatek to share at Christmas time and making butter lambs, which are displayed on the table here, for displaying at our Easter tables. We also gather as a church family for the celebration of Vigilia, which is our Christmas Eve dinner. We decorate our church to the nines for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, and for Easter. And we work together to afford the best in Polish food at our Harvest Festival, which is celebrated every August. Our masses are held at Saturday at 4:30, Sunday at 9 a.m., which is a Polish Mass, and 10:30, which is a choral Mass. And we welcome everyone in the Schenectady County to come and join us for one of these beautiful Masses and to come and share in some of our Polish culture. And I thank you very much,
Very informative,
Janice,
Pat.
for having me here
Yes.
today, and very proud. But I have a couple of little things here. If you can see this, this is my graduating class from St. Adelbert's Church from 1953. And my partner in crime over here, Joyce, is standing right next to me. There's Joyce, and there's me.
How lovely. And you're together today.
And we're together today.
Isn't that
The
swell?
other picture that I have is, this is our 5th grade class from St. Adelbert's. And Joyce and I are in there, and along with all of our other cohorts. And I just have one funny story to close out with. Outside of this window in our 5th grade class, there was a fire escape. And there was a little penny candy store across the street. And we had a nun that taught us our Polish, and she would get so involved in the story that she was reading to us that she would forget that she was even in the class, or that we were in the class. And so we would gather our pennies, and one of us would go down that fire escape, while she was talking, to the penny candy store, and we would buy candy and bring it back for everybody to enjoy. Father Gojoek, who at the time was the pastor of the church while I was there, guess who he caught going down the fire escape? It was me. I was disciplined by not only him, but by Sister Superior and by my mother. I think my mother, I caught her wrath for going down the escape. But you know, it was fun back then, and we all enjoyed our time at school, and we all enjoyed our camaraderie with one another, and we still are together today. Carolyn and Phyllis went to St. Adalbert's, Ronnie went to St. Adalbert's, and here we are, still friends after all of these years.
What
Thank
a
you.
lovely story. Thank you so much, Pat. Very nice. I'd like to read the English translation of this. It's called in English, Dabrowski's Mazurka. Poland has not yet succumbed. As long as we remain, what the foe by force has seized, sword in hand, will gain. March, march, Dabrowski. March from Italy to Poland. Under your command we shall reach our land. Cross the Vistula and Vorta, and Poles we shall be. We've been shown by Bonaparte ways to victory.
Stalat, Stalat,
May you live 100 years.
Stalat, Stalat,
May you live 100 years.
Yes, yes.
One more time. May you live 100 years.
Dziękuję.
We did it. We did it. Now we got the music out of the way.
This is a prelude from Frederick Chopin's book of preludes, and Opus 28, number 7. It's a very short melody, but he was a master of taking some of these Polish melodies that he heard in childhood and making some marvelous pieces out of it. You probably will recognize this. A little variation.